A special MacVoices After Dark, Part 2. This is MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is a special MacVoices After Dark, Part 2. Usually, we do not publish the after-show conversation. We keep that for our patrons, and it's restricted because all the filters are off and the talk can get a little salty, and I want to make sure you know that going in. The reason I'm releasing this one in particular, though, is that there were so many great conversations about things we had already kicked around in the regular show and more information that I found it really interesting. I thought you might too. So consider this a little extra bonus MacVoices. If you want to get these on a regular basis, all you have to do is become a patron to MacVoices at patreon.com/MacVoices at any level, and you get access to the After Dark shows. So again, fair warning, this is After Dark, so just be aware that maybe the language is not what it typically is, and the panel is a bit less restrained. Let's get to it.
Sometimes you find those comments in the chat of the article. People will start saying, well, this is all a big payoff to this or that. But
well, in general, I think on those sort of things, Marty, unless there's specifics of arguing why that's true, I just think it's a food fight and just people throwing up chaff and just internet.
Yeah, sometimes it is, but sometimes they provide specifics.
Yeah. And those are the comments worth reading.
It's too bad because sometimes I feel like some of these battles are just being fought just because somebody thinks that this is the way it should be. To the point that you made, not even thinking about who does this really help, who does it hurt. It's just like, well, this is the way I think it should be, and so I'm going to advocate for it. And once you take a position like that, sooner you can always find supporters no matter what your position is.
Mark, check out the article that Marty dropped.
I clicked it. It's open in my browser. I'll read it.
This
later.
Is great. It even it quotes directly the part of the bill that I was talking about, where it prohibits the using the parts encryption pairing to prohibit or limit functionality.
Okay, I'll read it, and I guess we can discuss it through our Slack, to pass some comments back and forth. I don't know if Chuck wants to waste more airtime on a future show.
Yeah. I'll copy the article into Slack so it's there.
I actually, I don't think anything has been terribly off color here. I might end up releasing this as one of those rare MacVoices After Darks that I put out publicly, because this has been a really good discussion.
I could ruin that for you by dropping.
No. Well, I release it as After Dark, then.
So, Jeff, do you ever comment about socks or other apparel?
I do comment about pants. They really annoy me.
Okay. Overpants.
Wow. Overpants, yes. Overpants are lame. And I do often have trouble finding where mine are.
Hey, Jeff, the thing I love about you, you're on brand. Consistently.
I am so very on brand. And the great thing about your comment is that could be a compliment or a big slam. It could go either way.
I have no malice, I have no affection. I'm just calling him as I see him.
And that's fair.
This is the kind of thing that just makes me crazy. Quoting from the article, with error messages notifying users that a part isn't genuine and some features refusing to work as a result, Apple ensures that parts pairing keeps the money in its pocket. To Wheeler's point, if its hardware and software is so superior, Apple devices shouldn't be so compromised by small repairs with illegitimate equipment. That has to be one of the
Where's
dumbest
the
statements.
what? There's no logic there.
There is no logic. That is stupid. That is stupid.
This BMW is such a high quality car, it shouldn't matter at all if I start putting Pinto engine parts into it.
It shouldn't matter if it's superior technology, Jeff. So it shouldn't matter if one of the tires has only a quarter of the pressure that is suggested. It should.
And it's a different
It
size.
doesn't matter if I put cheap low octane gas and then go drive it up, up to where Jeff lives in the Rockies. I mean, at high altitude, and the engine is knocking and pinging.
And all of a sudden, your engine sounds like a marimba.
I'm sorry. Who wrote this?
Somebody who wants to order a Whopper at McDonald's. That's who.
I don't even think there's a byline here that I can see. That just has to be one of the most offensive paragraphs I've ever read.
Well, it's interesting because I put the article in this. The title is "Apple Won't End Parts Pairing Without a Fight."
Yes.
But when I put it into the Slack room, it comes up as a bad look for Apple. Right to repair in Oregon, backed by Google.
You know why? A lot of these. So underneath a lot of SEO is they'll look at what the browser cookie is. They'll look at the location. The browser signature string. They'll look at the location. They'll look at other cookies. So two people can do the exact same search and get completely different results based on their history of what they have searched for. So I suspect that maybe things coming up, through Slack, which in essence has to post that little thumbnail, has to act like a web browser. It's getting served up something than you or I, when we click on the link and view it in Safari.
Yeah.
Again, more, that there is.
Okay.
You really can't depend on what's everybody having the same. You can't depend on everybody having the same set of facts and information because of things like this.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
I was just going to say for some of the stuff that's showing up, the Apple antitrust, the right to repair, I would love to see more information on the constituents who are bringing up these issues, because I know I have talked to people who believe really strongly one way or the other on that Apple is just too big. They would never buy an Apple product. But I have a hard time getting information on what the underlying reason is. It's more of a general feeling than really specific examples, or if they give specific examples, they're sort of superficial. Almost like it keeps showing up again and again in whatever feed they follow in social media. But there's no, and it's enough for them to feel strongly about it and support their position, but not enough to know really why. So if you ever come across someone who can explain what that actual reasoning is, or where the underlying social media messaging is coming from, I would love to hear that, because there is definitely something out there. There are it's not just one person. There are several people that support that position, which is, I think, one of the reasons. It's not just a money thing. That it's why there's so many politicians that are out saying, "Yep, Apple's too big" or whatever. I can't find good detailed content to explain it.
Well, Eric, I think that it seems to me a lot of that is much of social media has an echo chamber, so people see it and then they get accustomed to it. It's like Goebbels said, just repeat the big lie over and over and over again. And that's an extreme illustration of a point. But they hear things and it sort of softens them up. And then they see something and they sort of want to be with that in crowd that is doing this. And I'd like, why should I have to go through the trouble of having to go schedule and go into Apple, blah, 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 blah. I can go to Cheap Charlie down the street, and why can't he just fix my phone? So I think I think that people get set up and they're not really thinking critically, and they're just passing on this greater emotional wave that that is out there, and politicians pick up on that stuff. Journalists pick up on that stuff. Journalists can fan and fuel some of that. So I think your point was correct. Is ask them about a specific instance, instead of just generalities.
So this is another paragraph. This is the paragraph before, I guess, 2 up from the one I read a minute ago. Although she didn't get a chance to speak at the hearing, Tara Wheeler, Oregonian, cybersecurity expert, and CEO of Red Queen Dynamics, told 404 Media, quote, "As someone who is a certified mobile device analyst and forensic specialist, there is no security implication to switching the battery or glass screen out of a phone in meaningful terms."
I think that's fair, but that's a very narrow comment.
It's a very narrow comment and is very self-serving.
Well, and it's assuming that there's not a part attached to that screen.
Well, and it's also assuming that this quote that they use from her
is accurate.
Is accurate and has not been pulled out of context.
Yeah, good point, Jeff.
She still looks angry.
Yeah, she does.
Hey. if I were a cybersecurity expert and analyst, I'd want a photo that makes me look angry too.
Yeah.
Because those ain't if I'm like, hey, I'm a cybersecurity specialist. Yeah, right. I'm a cybersecurity.
You want to be
specialist.
a badass cybersecurity specialist.
Yeah.
You need more cowbell, Jeff.
Always need more cowbell.
Hey, Eric.
Too much panache.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing the whole cybersecurity consulting thing.
Eric, you said something tonight, and I was going to tell a story, and then I forgot. But I'll tell it to you guys now. The day I went to do my Apple Vision Pro demo, I ran into a lady, person, female, that I haven't seen in a bunch of weeks. And coincidentally, she was on her way to the Apple store as well to have her AirPods repaired. So I went in, I'm doing the demo. She was talking at the Genius Bar. And then when I was finished the demo, she was gone. I just saw her this weekend again. And she said she had gone to the Apple store and they determined that the AirPods she had purchased were fake, were counterfeit.
Wow.
And therefore, obviously, they wouldn't help her. And the guy must have done it like immediately. And she said, "How did you know?" Now, here my AirPods case. I don't see it, but somewhere he must have flipped up the lid, and there's something printed somewhere that I'm not seeing. And he said, all the counterfeit ones. One of the telltale signs is that the writing is upside down.
Okay, so Chuck, look inside the lid part. Okay,
yeah,
look right up here. That's where there's writing.
Oh, you're right. There is. Okay, so that must be on illegitimate AirPods. That is oriented the other way. And she did acknowledge that she bought these at a non-Apple store. She said it was just some electronics store. She didn't even remember where.
And the electronics store may not even know they're counterfeit.
Exactly.
It's surprising to me that the counterfeiters haven't figured that out, that they got the print upside down.
Well, so now Chuck, they will soon.
Also right here.
Yeah, well, I'm in the case, Jeff, so.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the two places where there's printing on the case.
Yeah. I hadn't even looked that closely. I didn't see it, but yeah, but I thought that was really interesting. But they said she flipped it up and he said, "Yeah, counterfeit, sorry."
Well, damn it, shouldn't Apple turn this around instead of being in a defensive posture? Go out and talk about, yes, there's all, we make very popular devices. There are a lot of counterfeits out there, and parts pairing and all these other things we do are to allow you to authenticate the veracity that this is truly an Apple product. So you're protected against, whatever the litany of risks and dangers are. I mean, I think, again, this is traditionally, it's not Apple style, but the environment is changing. I think they need to, counterpunch a little bit more. I mean, I think maybe the only counterpunch we remember is Steve Jobs. You're holding it wrong. I think Apple needs to adapt, to a changing world, where because they are so big, they're no longer the small, cuddly underdog that everyone's rooting for because of their size. Like Eric was saying, oh, there's a lot of unthinking. Oh, they're just too damn big. They need to be broken up, or they're too big. They're just a profit mongering, unfeeling corporation. So I'm reminded of a dinosaur. It grew and it was a perfect predator. It was the apex, species on the planet until there was an asteroid and then they all died out. And this is not to predict a catastrophe for Apple, but rather to indicate as the environment changes, they need to change. And as more of these attacks about the App Store and security and parts repair, I think they need to launch on communication and other campaigns just to really talk about the benefit of their unified ecosystem. Yes, okay, it is sticky, but guess what? It's a choice. Everything works together. You don't have to worry about things breaking. It's not like Microsoft where you wake up one day and all of a sudden it had amnesia and all your printer drivers have disappeared and you have an unopened multi-hour task to reinstall stuff. So they have a lot of benefits, but they need to talk about this is why we do things. And Tim Cook has this sort of Don Corleone high level. Well, we ask ourselves if a product really deserves to exist, and it only does if it can help people. Well, the bastards who are screwing them in the lawsuits are taking that out of context and completely misrepresenting it and beating them over the head with it. Well, at some point, he needs to let his capos go out and sort of engage in a little bit of a PR and communications war. Otherwise, you're going to see this stuff just continue to proliferate.
Mark, to go back to an earlier point and just to get facts straight, weren't people riding around on dinosaurs just 6,000 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean before Elon's car?
Hey, Cletus in the chat room says, I have a counterfeit set of Air Pro I bought out of state. I'd forgotten mine and purchased a set in a small town. Cletus, how did you decide that they were counterfeit? Did you take them to an Apple store and somebody told you, or didn't they function properly? I'd be really interested in knowing.
You just check the writing in his case.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Right now, he just found out. Darn.
And it said made by Orpel in Capeltina.
Oh, well.
Oh, man.
So it's interesting on that whole right to repair thing. So one of the arguments is, if Apple's no longer supporting a product, then you should be able to repair it however you need to make it work. And I think there's there's something to be said for that. On the other hand, I think, I would love to see Apple come back and periodically do an increased credit on trade-ins for some of the older products. Come in to buy a new version of the product or a reconditioned product, and we'll give you, a decent amount of trade-in just to keep things out of the landfill and to keep you from having to repair it. And I think that would at least help a tiny bit.
The problem is the bill didn't have an amendment that was called right not to complain after you do it bill. that when the thing goes bottom up, it's not Apple's fault anymore. You've made the decision. And unfortunately, people don't think that way. They try to find someone to pick as the villain in the product, in the situation. And Cheap Charlie's is not going to be he'll be the villain, but they're not going to get satisfaction out of him. So Apple will then be the bigger villain.
I mean, when the thing
So,
goes up
Marty-
in flames because the battery is faulty, it still has an Apple logo on it. So Apple still has to deal with it, even if it's not their component. Because the lawyers are going to go after whoever's got money.
Right.
And again, I think that's why I believe that in 3 to 5 years, this will work itself out. Just as people have learned about, taking your car, to a non-dealer, or going, bringing, somebody in to fix your refrigerator, or all these other things that we see in our life. This is new, because a lot of people think, oh, it's really tiny. Why can't we just take a part out? That has all sorts of security implications. And if people were better educated on that, they'll ask themselves, well, is it really worth, pick a number, the $28 I'm going to save, going to Cheap Charlie instead of going to Apple? And is it really worth the risk? And once, and unfortunately, this is sort of the way I think about this, is a sort of social knowledge and dispersion factor. Is if there is more prominent third-party repairs, and then if they all go bad, then all the news will go out there, and people really think, well, the phone is 4 years old. Do I rather go through that, or would rather upgrade? Or instead of going, there, for $28 more, I'd rather go to Apple and know, I have a single choke to throat if, to make sure everything works. So I think this is, human behavior and a societal education and societal response problem.
First of all, Cletus is saying that he found the serial number was odd. He looked it up and found out that it was not legitimate. He's going to take pictures and send them to me. But the more I read this article, the worse it gets. I mean, it really is kind of staggering just how biased this is. Gentlemen, I think I'm going to shut it down for the evening, but thank you so much. This has been great. And I think I want to mark this as this has been a really useful discussion. I'm sorry that some of it didn't come out on the show. But there's the byline. Okay. Molly Lowe.
Is that a ChatGPT character?
No, that's her. That's her nom de plume.
Okay,
legitimate or not?
Has she written other things before? I haven't.
I don't know. I don't know.
Haven't clicked yet.
I just because of the site layout, it wasn't where I would expected to find it, and then I found it. So anyway, I guess everyone have a great week. We'll see what comes up this week because it's a never-ending circus.
Boy, howdy.
Take care, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you all
good night,
for coming.
everyone.
Good night.
See you later.
Right.
And
Thanks for hosting us, Chuck.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And folks, if you're still with us, whether you're live or in a public after dark, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Night. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.